The tax.
Pay taxes.
Taxes.
There's a lot of uncertainties in life, and two things are certain: death and taxes. So in this episode of FML, I want to talk about how one of those certainties actually ended up making me lose $11,046. Additionally, I want to talk about some of the different tax changes that are happening in the United States right now that you have to look out for, and then also some ways to prevent something like that happening to you. So let's start off with the fun stuff. How the heck did I lose $11,046 last year, and why I didn't get a tax refund? Let's get started. So if you looked at my first video, you'll notice that I had lost $80,000 from basically quitting a job. Hi, I'm the financial failure. Let me tell you how I lost 80K of my income and how I'll likely never be able to see that money again. But at that time period, I was working 2 jobs. So in those 2 jobs, my tax bracket was super high and I did not notice my tax bracket changing. With that in mind, I didn't change anything from my W-4 when I accepted that second job. So I wasn't actually taking out enough money to pay for the federal and state taxes. Additionally, I had moved states. So one, I was living in Maryland, which actually taxes more. And really that was the problem right there. I wasn't taking out enough money. I was working these 2 jobs and it really didn't hit me until I started doing my taxes. So then when I took my W-2s over to H&R Block, they're the ones who handle my taxes. Yes, no sponsor there. I'm just sort of shouting them out, I guess, because they are true tax advisors. I am not. But when they looked over my W-2s and saw what I was paying, and they were shocked. I didn't think anything of it, to be quite honest with you. And at that time, I was still working those 2 jobs, so I was like, I can pay anything. Little did I know, I was gonna get hit with a big whammy. So at the end of the session with the tax advisor from H&R Block, she was like, yeah, you're not gonna like this. And I was like, what do you mean? Is it just a couple $1,000s? And I'm saying that now, like a couple $1,000s isn't a lot of money, but she was like, no, it's more than a couple $1,000s. You're in the 5-figure range. And I was shocked. And then she got back to me with what the figure was. And I was like, I do not have this money.
I don't have money.
You don't have money to pay a $400 water bill?
I do not have the money, okay?
So, with that being said, me not having that money, I was just like, what the heck am I gonna do? Am I going to have to sell off some of my assets? And that's exactly what I had to do. I had to sell off some of my freaking assets. So what asset did I go to? Some of you are gonna cringe over this, but I had to go to my freaking cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency to me is something that I believe in long term, but for me to have to get rid of it so early and the amount of Bitcoin at that time that I had to get rid of, it was just really painful. I sold some of my Bitcoin and I paid off that $11,000 bill. And it is definitely a financial regret and I can't go back, right? But what I can do is move forward. So moving forward, that's what we're going to talk about right now, and some of the new tax changes, at least in the United States, and what I'm doing currently to prepare for when I do my taxes for 2022. So number 1, standard deductions are larger. For 2022, the standard deduction has increased from $800 to $25,000 for married couples filing jointly, and for single taxpayers, it's increased $400 to $12,000. And for people using the head of household filing status, i.e. single parents, the standard deduction has increased from $19,000 up $600 from 2021. The second change in 2022 is that the income tax bracket shifted. So the tax brackets have gone up for 2022, but the tax rate stayed the same. And there's going to be a little image of the 2022 federal income tax brackets shown here. I will pause it for you to take a screenshot and take it to a true advisor, not myself. Number 3, the child tax credit is smaller. So the credit amount will drop to a maximum of $2,000 per dependent under the age of 17 for 2022, down from $3,600 for children under the age of 6 or $3,000 for under the age of 18 in 2021. And for all my parents out there, sorry. Income thresholds drop for the child and dependent care credit. So this is another L for parents. Another tax credit change to note is that the temporary expansion of the Child and Dependent Care Credit expired. This credit helps parents who pay out of pocket for child care expenses that enable them to work to claim a credit that is equal to 20%, 35% of those total expenses. Taxpayers with higher incomes can claim the smaller credit. Jeez, this is looking like really grim for parents. Yikes. Hopefully one of the parents is making some bread. Number 5, the Earned Income Tax Credit, or also known as EITC, was temporarily expanded in 2021 to help moderate and lower income workers without children to help them get bigger tax breaks. But that relief has ended. And probably this whole relief thing was probably introduced because of COVID-19 and the whole pandemic. So likely a lot of those little incentives are starting to just go away. So you gotta be prepared for these things. And finally, number 6, no more $300 charitable deduction. Back in 2021, the IRS allowed taxpayers to reduce their gross income by up to $300 or $600 if married or filing jointly if they donated in cash to tax qualified charities. That deduction is no longer available. So in my honest opinion, some of those updates don't really seem that appealing. It really doesn't matter if you are a parent, you're not a parent, if you're filing single or you're filing jointly. It seems like they've upped the tax bracket rates. They have removed a lot of the incentives that they had included from the pandemic, and taxes are going to be pretty bad for a lot of people. But that doesn't mean it's going to be a financial failure for me again, because I actually took some precautions and I'm going to try to make sure that I'm not owing 5 figures for another year, because that will be killer for me. So yes, I'm not a tax advisor, I'm not a financial advisor, I don't even have a CPA or any of that, but I do have 2 tips for you coming into this tax season that should help you out. So let's get started with those 2 little items or 2 little tips that I have for you. Tip number 1, you know that W-4 that you have to fill out when you first start a job, or they make you fill it out every year? Well, that W-4 is extremely helpful. I think that you should talk with a true tax advisor and see if you're actually filling that paperwork out correctly, which is one of my first little tips for you. Or there's a little option there that says extra withholding. Put a little extra money in. It's not going to hurt, it's probably going to help, and then if you're not doing it correctly, then it's going to basically fix your issues. But let's say you did talk to a true advisor and you're doing extra withholding. It's basically like a savings account, because then come at the end of the year or whenever you're doing your taxes, you're going to get that extra money back. And it's money that like you're not spending on frivolous things or crazy hobbies or stuff like that. It's just extra withholding that you're going to get back as a refund. So that's my tip number 1 for you. So for tip number 2, just save.
You want to save money? Follow me.
If you already have a savings account, use that. Add some extra money in there. Save. It's literally that simple. So then when you do file your taxes, who cares? You're going to have savings, you're going to be able to pay it off, and then you won't have to sell off your Bitcoin the way that I did.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
So that's all I have for you today, folks. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, comment. It's really cringy for me to say that. I really don't like to ask people to do that, but please, it really helps the algorithm out. It really helps me out as a content creator. And at the end of this video, there's going to be some little recommendations for you. Just check them out, look at them. And as always, peace.